lecture, right? So what we had learned yesterday uh, is more of like a introduction, right? So this is what we have learned. Today's focus will be on teaching aptitude, that is unit 1 will be focusing. So largely if you see, we are going to focus uh, today's concepts of teaching, objective of teaching, then 3 levels of teaching, and basic requirements of for teaching, practice questions, and key takeaways. So let us try to understand each one of them. So simple definition is teaching is a purposeful activity which aimed at facilitating learning through various methods, strategies, and interaction. So the keyword which you should focus here is purposeful, facilitating, learning, methods, and interaction. So teaching is not just lecturing, information transfer, or one-way process, or memorization, or exam preparation only. So if we'll see who are the different because it's a very complex process, so you can see it involves teacher, learner, and content and context. So in general, teaching involves teacher plus learner plus content plus context. So all of this leads to learning. Now let us focus on what are the different characteristics of teaching. So the nature of teaching is it is an interactive process, it's a two-way communication process, and it's a planned activity. A planned activity refers to systematic organization. It's a goal-oriented, like specific objectives. So it is dynamic. It adapts to the needs. Like for example, the real-world classroom will change, right? So we have to adapt much faster according to the needs of the students. Then features, like you can say it's a both art and science. So you need creativity, also principles, and it is a continuous process. So it's an ongoing improvement, and there are social activities also, like because we are interacting with the human. So teaching is both an art, it requires creativity, and also it is a science because it follows principles. Now, like for example, if I'm teaching economics, so uh, like suppose let's say that if I'm focusing on supply and demand, so now let's say that I'll be taking some example which will connect my students to the real world data or real market data, right? Then I can make it interactive, and I can make it visual, and I can do the assessment also based on the concepts. So similarly for other subjects, let's say that in history somebody is teaching French Revolution, so the teacher is showing some documentary clips. They can make it interactive, like they can debate on the causes, the context, they can compare with other revolutions. So assessment, they can write, like the students can expect at the end to write an essay on the impact. So similarly for the physics also, you can see how the teaching will vary across the subjects. So that is why it is dynamic. Now the next question is, why do we teach? The primary purpose is to bring about meaningful learning, to acquire knowledge, to develop skills, to build positive attitudes, and apply learning in life. So Bloom's taxonomy, which is basically the guiding principles, so it is largely defines across 3 domains. First one is cognitive, that is knowledge; affective, that refers to the attitudes; then psychomotor skills. So let's try to understand more about this. So what do we mean by cognitive objectives? That is knowledge domain. So what is cognitive? So it's a mental process, basically thinking, understanding, and applying. And if we follow Bloom's taxonomy, so there are 6 levels of this process. So first of all, the it starts with the knowledge. Like you can say, when we ask the students like to recall facts, terms, and then comprehension, to understand the meaning, the application to use in new situations, analysis, break into parts, synthesis, and evaluation. So as we progress from 1 to 6, so you can see the level of learning or the cognitive process or the knowledge domain is actually becoming more rigorous. So that is why you can say it's very dynamic. So the example, like for example, in case of history, you can ask the dates, then you can ask the student the what are the causes, then you can ask the student what will be the impact of a particular event, right? In math we ask the formulas, so formulas is just knowledge, right? Then concepts, and then problems, so problem is the application. Like in economics, for example, when we just ask what do you mean by law of demand, so it is just a knowledge, right? And what is law of demand? Then if we, when we ask a real, we give a real data and ask them, okay, calculate the equilibrium price, so that is the applications, right? So then suppose here are some more examples. Suppose for example, in case of economics, we know the GDP formula. Then C plus I plus G plus X minus M, that is the GDP formula, already we know. So like it is important to understand why GDP matters. So that is knowledge is basically GDP formula over here to understand is why GDP matters, and to apply to calculate GDP, to analyze the limitation of GDP, and to evaluate means when I am comparing GDP versus HDI. HDI is the Human Development Index. Now similarly in case of literature, so it will be little different, and chemistry also, and geography also. So now I'll go to the next level. So that is affective, objective, or attitude domain. So what is affective? Affective is basically feelings, emotions, attitudes, and values. So there are 5 levels basically. Uh, that is like receiving, which involves awareness and listening, and then responding, that is active participation. Valuing is accept value and preference. Organization, that refers to prioritizing the values. Characterization, that is value guides behavior. So examples are like environment, basically concern means you have to act responsibly. In social studies, when we say appreciate, it means respect the cultures. In ethics, when we value honesty, it means we are basically trying to practice the integrity over here. Then next is skill domain, that is the psychomotor objective. What is psychomotor objective? This is basically refers to the physical skills, coordination, and motor abilities. So here also there are different levels. So first level is perception, that is sensory awareness. Next is set, readiness to act. Then guided response, that is imitation. Mechanism, that is the habit formation. Complex response, that is skillful performance. Suppose some of the examples involves, like let's say that in biology when we use microscope, then when we do dissection, or in physics lab techniques, or when we use specific instruments, or like sports skills or coordination. Then let's say that in computer science it is like typing and programming. So these are like different psychomotor objectives of also learning. So now when we try to integrate these 3 domain, the integration is very important over here. So you can see psychomotor skills basically it is actually, it is a we can see the knowledge, that is a cognitive domain and affective. So it is a integration. So complete learning is a integration of intersection of all these 3 different actually domains. So this is a intersection of it. So now, like what is important here for UGC net perspective? So let us first go a little deep into the issue. So in Bloom's cognitive domain, especially Bloom's taxonomy questions test your understanding of mental approach and keyword, not just label names. Okay. So what you must know, mental process for each level, keyword to identify each level, and how to match approaches with objective and application in real teaching scenario. Like for example, one question you can say recent exam pattern shows like you will be given a match list one different mental approaches with list two different objectives. Now let's say that level one. So level one is, as I already told you, it refers to knowledge. So you can see what are the keyword over here. So you can see the keyword is recall. So usually it is the very initial level of learning. Then remember, you can say recognize, list, define, name, state. So these are the basically different mental approaches, right? And this is the level one, you can say learnings. So what a student does here is just he or she retrieves from the memory. There is no processing needed, and we have like you can say exact reproduction. So in exam, like when a particular concept is asked, so simply you recall. So what are the different keywords over here? You can see recall, remember, give the list or name of that particular event or formula, label, define, state, identify, match, repeat, reproduce. Like for example, there are questions like list the 10 units of paper 1. So this is a simple level 1 knowledge or level 1 you can say learning. So define GDP, name Newton's law, recall multiplication tables. So this is not very higher order learning. So it is basically level 1. Okay. Now let's go to next level, level 2, that is comprehension, which involves mental approaches. So mental approaches means what? It's basically refers to the discrimination. So to see differences. So it involves like interpret or explain. So these are the basically synonyms which also uh, integrate with this approach. So explain, we can use what, distinguish, compare, summarize. So basically in level 2 of learning, so what a student does over here is he try to understand the meaning, explain in own words, distinguish differences, grasp relationship. So the keyword or the verb which is important over here for the level 2 learning is basically understand, comprehend, explain, describe, distinguish, differentiate, interpret, translate, summarize, paraphrase. So all these are basically level 2 of learning. So suppose for example some questions when we ask the students explain how GDP is calculated. So simply it is a level 2 comprehension you can say process or level 2 of learning. So distinguish or summarize the French Revolution, interpret this graph. So similarly you can see these are the level 3. Now we will go to the level 3. Level 3 application is like, let's say that it is basically hypothesis establishment, or it can be problem solving, apply principles, use in new context, implement, demonstrate. So what student does over here is uses knowledge in new situations, solve problems, formulate hypothesis, apply theory to practice. I think most of the cases, like for example when a student write dissertation, so basically there we are doing level 3 of learning, that is application. Okay, so if level 1 and 2 is not done properly, so level 3 will be also very difficult for a student. So what are the keywords for the level 3 is apply, use, employ. solve, calculate, demonstrate, show, construct, build, hypothesize, predict. Suppose some of the examples questions are given: calculate GDP for given data, or apply Newton's law to this problem, establish hypothesis for this phenomena, use grammar rules to write. So this is basically level 3 application. So sometimes we face problem, like the students face problem when they are not very much sure, or they have not read, or they are not actually have gone through, or they have not faced level 1 and level 2 of learning process. So the level 3 means if you ask the students, so they face very difficulty. Then exam is like how you will be having questions like hypothesis establishment refers to what application, like this. So then level 4 is analysis. So mental approaches, basically what are the different mental approaches is to break down or to examine parts, or to compare components, contrast, categorize, deduce. So what a student does over in this process is he tries to break the whole into parts, examine the relationship, identify patterns, find underlying structure. So analysis is basically separate from evaluation. So what are the key words involved with analysis? One is analyze, examine, compare, contrast, categorize, classify, investigate, inspect, differentiate, separate. So suppose for example, when we ask a student to analyze the causes of inflation, compare two economic system, examine assumption in argument, categorize these organisms. So these are little higher order of learning, right? So that involves level 4, that is analysis. Now level 5 and 6, that is further, it is much higher order of learning. So that is synthesis and evaluation. So synthesis involves to create new patterns, to design solution, to formulate theories, and to propose plans. So it is a little tough, higher order learning process. So the keyword is create, design, develop, formulate, propose, construct, generate, design and experiment. So create a business plan, compose a poem. So that is level 5, synthesis, simple. Level 6, evaluation, to judge value or worth, to make decisions, to assess qualities. Critique, keyword is evaluate, judge, assess. Critique, justify, recommend, decide. So example is evaluate GDP versus SDI. Justify your choice. Critique this research. So basically you can say this is level 6, that is also higher order of learning. Now let's try to understand how Bloom's taxonomy is defining. I think some of you have not maybe not aware about what is Bloom's taxonomy. It actually it maps different mental approaches to the learning. So now you can see this is the summary. So I think those who have studied education, you must be knowing Bloom's taxonomy, but for others you can just after this session you can go through, or you can do little research on the internet what is Bloom's taxonomy and what is its importance in teaching. So what are the different levels of, you can say, mental approaches? You can say that is knowledge, comprehension, application, analysis, synthesis and evaluation. So like how you can identify, like if you are going to ask the question like recall, remember, recognize, then discrimination, interpret, explain. So hypothesis establishment refers to the application level, problem solving part. So analysis is breakdown, examine, compare. Synthesis is create, design, formulate. Evaluation is judge, assess and critique. So what is important over here? So when a teacher is teaching, so you have to actually teach at different levels. So it is not that only we will be teaching at at a lower level of teaching. Rather, if the students is diverse and they can pick up, so you have to take them through different levels and expose, and then reassess your audience and see where exactly they are fitting. So these are the different keywords. Suppose for example, when we ask list, define, name, state, just identify. So these are very low level of knowledge. Then second is to understand, to explain, to distinguish, summarize, describe. That is again comprehension. Application, so apply, use, demonstrate, calculate, construct. So analyze, compare, contrast, examine, categorize. Again, this is analysis. Then synthesis refers to design, generate. Evaluation refers to evaluate, judge, critique, justify, recommend. So now for the UGC net, so the red highlighted mental approaches are basically you can say that is recall, discrimination, hypothesis establishment. So these are frequently asked questions. We will see how the questions are coming. Now you just see, this was a question which was there I think last year June 2025. So this is a question, if you see, this question involves, let me remove this. So you can use chat box to answer as well, because we have deactivated the audio. So now the question is, you have to match list 1 mental approaches with list 2 objectives. Can you see? So now first is list recall, discrimination, hypothesis establishment, evaluation. Then you have to match with different levels of mental approaches, right? And with objectives, right? So now you can see which one is more correct. So suppose if you see recall, so as just we have discussed, so recall is knowledge only, discrimination is understanding, hypothesis establishment is application, evaluation is creativity. So this is how the question will come. We'll have more practice, and then if when you are having doubt, we'll discuss more on that. So now next is, you can see the correct answer, as already I told you. Now what is the reason behind that? So if you see the correct answer, first is recall is it is like the second one, that is knowledge. So recall means what? You are retrieving from memory. So that is exactly equal to knowledge level. So second B, discrimination, that refers to the understanding. So discrimination is to distinguish the differences, which is equal to comprehension. Then third one C was C mental approach was hypothesis establishment, which refers to the objective with application. It means formulating hypothesis is equal to applying principles to new situation. So it is higher order. Evaluation means creativity. Evaluation involves synthesis plus judgment. That is creative thinking. It is again higher order learning process. So these are the, what is the key learning we got from here? These are the different mental approaches are different from label names. So you have to know this. Now question, let's say that one more practice question we can have. Suppose if there is a question, list the causes of World War I or the First World War. Which level basically? Which level it is actually showing? So you can say application, knowledge, analysis, synthesis. Simply we are asking the students list the causes of World War I. So obviously it is the lowest knowledge, because if you see recall is knowledge, right? So already we have learned. Now similarly, next question, distinguish between democracy and dictatorship. So which level is basically showing? So it is knowledge, comprehension, application, evaluation. Obviously you are asking them to distinguish. So if you remember this table, so distinguish, discrimination, it refers to, this mental approach is basically refers to comprehension, right? So you can see that is comprehension. Similarly, design an experiment to test photosynthesis. So designing is also, you can say it is higher order, design synthesis. Okay. So now how you can remember the Bloom's taxonomy? So this is a shortcut, but although you have to identify whether you will be able to you have to little practice and read. So recall means knowledge, discrimination comprehension, hypothesis, RDHASE. Okay, so analysis, then synthesis, evaluation. So alternative memory trick is KCAASE. Basically knowledge, comprehensive, application, analysis, synthesis and evaluation. Now, what are the different levels of teaching? Okay, that is learning we have already discussed. So now what are the levels? Teaching operates at different depths or levels depending on the objective and learner readiness. So reflective level, understand level, memory level. So these are the three important levels that is teaching basically progresses from basic recall to deep critical thinking. So memory level, that is thoughtless teaching basically. So definition is it is the lowest level where students memorize and recall information without necessarily understanding it. So the characteristics is rote learning, facts and information, reproduction, teacher-centered, no critical thinking. And what are the teaching methods you use? Lecture method, drill and practice, repetition, cramming, and it is also called thoughtless teaching because students don't think deeply, they just remember. Now as a teacher, you have to, you should know which level you are basically teaching, right? So it is next. It is very interesting. Suppose, for example, in economics, if I am asking a student just to remember what is GDP, so obviously GDP is equal to C plus I plus G plus X minus M. So they have just remember this without understanding what each component means, what C means, what I means, what G means, why we are writing X minus M. Then simply, if the student is not able to tell this, then simply the students has memorized, right? So it is lowest level of learning. Then history, like for example, when we are asking a student like when the French Revolution took place, so they will give that okay, it took place in 1789. So without knowing the causes or consequences. Then chemistry, learning, let's say that water H2O, without understanding the molecular structure. So this is how it will be the memory level, right? So now memory level is, even though it is at lowest level of teaching, so it is when it will be also useful. It is not always bad. Memory level is appropriate for foundation facts, dates, names, formula, definitions, prerequisites, basic information needed before understanding. Then it is also like for young learners, like primary education, they should be exposed to this. So initial exposure, like fast introduction to the topic. Then if teaching stops at memory level, it means then there is a problem. What is the problem? It means the student is not able to understand anything. There is no real understanding, and what will happen is they cannot apply the knowledge. Like what is happening in our cases is why students are not able to write good digitation, because most of the teaching has happened at the memory level. So that is why they are not able to apply the knowledge. Now the question is, if you are not following Bloom's taxonomy, how you will identify this as a teacher, right? So then next is understanding level, that is thoughtful teaching. So it is basically middle level where students comprehend concepts, understand relationship, and it can explain in their own words. What are the different characteristics? So comprehension, meaning making, relationship, example, more interactive. What are the teaching methods we can use? Explanation with example, demonstration, discussion, question answer. So the key feature of this level is students can explain why and how, not just what, right? So it is kind of middle path. So that is why it is thoughtful teaching. So understanding this level basically involves to understand why GDP is this, how consumption affect the aggregate demand, relationship between components, right? So this is for other discipline also, it will change accordingly. Now, if we'll go further, now to understand levels, so advanced example are given for other disciplines, so we'll skip this. Now next level is reflective level, right? This is the uppermost level, and the definition is highest level. Reflective level of teaching is the highest level where students engage in critical thinking, problem solving, analysis, and create new knowledge. I think NEP is targeting maybe this one. We will focus or we will analyze. So, what are the different characteristics of this level of teaching? Is critical thinking, analysis, evaluation, problem solving, original thinking, and student centered. The teaching methods can be used in this case is problem solving, project method, research method, and then case studies and seminars. So students think independently. They can ask the questions and they can create. They just not learn, right? So it is the uppermost level of teaching. So you can say in economics, if you want to understand what is reflective level, now for example to analyze, we have to use these keywords. Why did India's GDP growth was slow in 2019? And to evaluate is GDP the best measure of development? Then there what you are doing? You are evaluating. Then propose, like what are the different solution to the unemployment problem? Then research, what is the impact of GST on the small business? So this is a reflective level. It's a very high order of learning, right? In case of history, let's say that when you are asking what would happen if Gandhi hadn't led independence, evaluate is, was partition inevitable? Compare Indian versus French Revolution causes. Research local history of freedom struggle. So these are reflective level of learning. So there are some more examples are given just to make you comfortable. So if you see in case of environmental science, analyze means climate change causes. Evaluate policy effectiveness. Design is sustainable solution. Research is basically local pollution. So in sociology, to analyze the social inequalities, to evaluate welfare scheme, to propose policy changes, research community issues. Similarly, in business studies, we do analyze company failures, evaluate marketing strategies, and then let us try to understand these three levels and compare. So already we know memory level, there are three levels, understanding level and reflective level. So reflective is the highest level, memory level is the lowest level. So how you will differentiate different aspect, focus, student role, teacher role, learning, questions, evaluation, example and best for. So you can see over here, memory level is best for primary education. So focus is fact and info, student role is passive over there, teacher role is the provider role, learning is rote learning, question is what when we ask, evaluation recall, give the dates. So this is basically suitable for the initial year of education, that is primary education. Then understanding level, mid path, that is secondary level of education. So focus is on concepts. So the student role is very active over here. Teacher role will be facilitator. Learning is comprehension. Question is why and how. Then evaluation is application. Example is understanding. It is best for the secondary education. Then reflective level, it's a higher order learning. So focus is problems. Student role is independent over here. Teacher role is guide. And learning is critical. And the question is what if you will ask this kind of question, what will happen? Example is research, right? And this is best for the higher education. So you should know these three levels of teaching, right? And now why it is important actually. So there should be very smooth progression across these three levels. So the important principle over here is teaching should progress through all the three levels. You cannot say that if I am teaching at memory level, I have to take my students to reflective level through my effort, okay, through my understanding. So as a teacher, it is very challenging, okay, because you will be having different type of learners in a class. Some will be very good, some will be average, or some of them will be not responding. But we have to make them understand. We have to actually take them along with this progression through the levels. You cannot actually simply say that okay, the students are not good, so I'll be only teaching at memory level. Okay, so your teaching will get matured gradually. You will progress from the memory level to the reflective level. Suppose, for example, teaching photosynthesis, right? So okay, so before that, let me tell you. So you can see memory level means learn facts only. Understand why. Reflective is think critically. Critical thinking is the high level of teaching. So now understanding is to understand the process. In this case, of course, this is a chemistry example. So let's say that let's skip and we'll go to the next slide. Which level is for higher education? Obviously, for UGC NET teaching, all these three levels are important. Now, in college and university teaching, we need all the three. So, and where we need actually. So, memory level, obviously, it is essential for foundational knowledge. Okay, this is very crucial. And understanding level, most teaching time spent here. Okay, reflective level is it is good also, and it should be target for the postgraduate students, right? And a good teacher should start with memory to build foundations and move to understanding, develop comprehension. So that is how the gradually a teacher should ideally move from one level to another level. Now, so what next question is, already we know the learners and the teachers perspective. Now next question is, what makes teaching effective? So there are four key requirements. First is teacher competency. That involves subject knowledge, pedagogical skills, communication abilities. Then learner readiness is prior knowledge, motivation, learning capacity. Okay, so these are the different aspect. Then next is learning environment. Then what are the different environment exist? Physical infrastructure, teaching aids, positive classroom climate, institutional support, administrative support, resources, professional development. So all these four must work together for effective teaching. Effective teaching means if you are having only teacher competency but you don't the learner is not ready, then the institutional support is not there, then obviously the teaching will not be effective. Now the next question is, let's say that if I'll ask, memory level of teaching is also known as thoughtless teaching. So explanation, at memory level students memorize without thinking deeply, so that is the reason why it is called thoughtless. So which level of teaching is most suitable for higher education? So what will be the answer? Answer will be all three levels. Basically, effective teaching uses all levels, starting with memory, moving through understanding to reflective thinking. Next question, a student can explain GDP formula in own words and relate to real economy. So this is memory level, understanding level, reflective level, or none of the above. So it is understanding level because the student can explain in own words and relate, right? Which objective relates to developing laboratory skills in biology? So basically this is the psychomotor skills. So why? Because it's a physical skills like lab techniques fall under psychomotor domain. Now, next question is a research project where students analyze causes of unemployment is at what level? It should be at reflective level. Like for example, it refers to the explanation, that is analysis, research, problem solving. So all these are basically reflective level of teaching. Now, what we have learned today, we have learned is basically teaching definition. Already we have discussed that teaching is a purposeful activity to facilitate learning through interaction. So there are three domains of objectives. One is cognitive, that is knowledge; affective, that is attitude; psychomotor is the skills. And there are three levels of teaching. One is that is memory, understanding, and then reflective. And usually the teaching should progress from recall to critical thinking. Now, what are the important points for you to remember over here is teaching is both art as well as science. So if you are teaching at memory level, it means it's the thoughtless teaching. Understanding level is basically thoughtful teaching. Reflective level is the highest level of teaching. Cognitive is knowledge domain. Affective is the attitude domain. Psychomotor is skill domain. Effective teaching uses all the three levels. So red means you should remember at least all of this. Now you will be what will be the homework for today. After the class you will get the study material for the day 2 content. You have to solve 10 MCQs on teaching levels. Create examples from your subject. One memory level example, one understanding level example, one reflective level example. Think how do you learn best and which level. So I think many of the students are here. So now you can also assess like whether your teaching your teachers is basically teaching at what level, and you can ask also the questions, right, uh, on this. I think when we will be having a question answer session, and the next topic will be tomorrow's topic will be the day 3, that is learner characteristics, which will involve both adults and adult learners. So I think homework is like, if you are not able to understand the homework, let me tell you. So now we'll discuss also. We'll have 10 minutes of discussion. So now you can share your thoughts. Like for example, which teaching level do your teachers use most? Can you give example from your experience? Any doubt about objectives or levels? Questions about exam preparation. So based on that, we can discuss. So now let us see how we can discuss. So thank you. Let me stop. So now